A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Welcome to another edition of Bearing Arms Cam and Company. My name is Cam Edwards. I'm glad you're with us on the program. Hopefully you had a fantastic weekend. It's hard to believe we are less than 2 weeks away from Christmas. I don't know about you. I am not feeling the Christmas spirit yet. Don't have the tree up. Got to go get the tree. Got to get the decorations. Just, maybe this week Christmas will kick in, but please tell me I'm not alone in waiting for the Christmas feelings to arrive. Maybe one of the reasons why I'm just not feeling that warm, fuzzy feeling is because we're already looking at what anti-gun Democrats are going to do here in 2023 with our right to keep and bear arms. They are the Grinch who stole guns in Illinois, where they are talking about a ban on so-called assault weapons. Yeah, this has been a long time item on the to-do list of anti-gun Democrats in Illinois, but they've never really felt like they've had the numbers to push through a ban statewide because of some, fairly rural downstate Democrats who are not on board with the same type of anti-gun machinations that you find from Democrats in and around the Chicagoland area. Unfortunately, Democrats actually added to their numbers in the state legislature back in November, and now they feel like they do have the votes to impose a sweeping gun ban, as well as raising the age to purchase a firearm from 18 to 21. So you young adults in Illinois would be deprived of your right to keep and bear arms entirely because you couldn't legally own a firearm until you turned 21. Here to talk about it, Second Amendment advocate, former ISRA board member Mike Weisman, who has been following what's going on in Illinois very closely. Mike joined us on the program earlier today to talk about the latest threats to our Second Amendment rights in Illinois. Take a look and a listen. Mike, thanks so much for coming on the program. It's good talking with you today, sir. Good to see you.
Sure. Good to see you, too. Thank you.
You bet. I wish the topic were better, but, unfortunately, Illinois being what it is, we've got an expanded Democrat majority, it looks like, coming into the legislature next session. So they are running full steam ahead with a ban on so-called assault weapons. What can you tell us about the bill that's been introduced?
Well, man, they got a super majority. They got a super majority. They can lose people and still push this thing through without any conservative opposition. The bill, well, it's a rehash of what we've seen before. You might remember hearing from me 2.5 years ago. Talking to the state senator that was sponsoring the bill, if you pay a fine, you get to keep it.
Yeah.
Well, they still have that part, and they changed it up a little bit, and they thrown some curveballs in there that make it worse. And I don't remember if there was specifically a 50 caliber ban in the other one. I don't have a 50 cal. I'll be honest. I can't afford one. I can't afford one yet. Right. And, but your 50 caliber, rifle is banned. If you pay a fine, you get to keep it. But your 50 caliber ammo is banned and you don't get to keep it. There's no provision for keeping that. Your standard capacity magazines that hold 10 rounds or that hold more than 10 rounds for anything except rimfire, any magazine for center fire ammo that holds more than 10 rounds for anything is banned.
No grandfather clause,
no
right? So if you've got them, you got to get rid of them, turn them over, do whatever.
Exactly. So this the sponsor of the bill, the person who introduced the bill, Bob Morgan, he was at Highland Park. It was at the Highland Park parade when the shooting took place. So he's emboldened. He's on a mission. He's on a mission to take my rights away because somebody went out and acted the fool. Because somebody went out and did something really evil.
Yeah.
It really was evil. It was awful. But it's if you want to stop drunk driving, you don't take away all the cars from the sober people.
Well, that's true. You don't also, ban alcohol, which is, we've gone down that road before. We, saw what happened there in the Chicagoland area when we had prohibition. But, there's also they're talking about raising the age to obtain a FOID card from 18 to 21. So 18, 19, 20-year-olds would not be able to exercise their Second Amendment rights at all. And again, you go back to the suspect in the Highland Park shooting. This was a guy who had to have that sign off by his father, apparently, when he obtained his FOID card. But there were all kinds of opportunities, Mike, for law enforcement to step in and stop this, to actually deal with this suspect, in the criminal justice system, or maybe in the mental health system, long before the Highland Park shooting ever happened.
All true. And when the shooting happened, he was 21.
Mm-hmm.
He was 21. He didn't need anyone's permission to go get that FOID card. And there was nothing on the books that would have kept him from getting one, because the previous call-ins on his mental state, the previous run-ins with the police, none of that was recorded. There was no clear and present danger ever filed with the state, although the local police departments may have talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so at the state level, they didn't know, and laws were put in place specifically so that they could know. So now we're going to because that law didn't work, we're going to make more laws, and we're going to punish everyone. But you got to wonder, I don't think that Bob Morgan really thinks in his heart of hearts that this bill's going to pass. I think he knows that this bill's going to pass, or if it does pass, it's going to get struck down. For him, it's the whole theater of going through the motion of getting something like this passed so that they can go back when it gets thrown out, or if it doesn't pass, they can go back and blame, the evil conservatives, the terrible, terrible gun owners. But in fact, when you take 25% of the population and make them criminals overnight, if you pass this piece of legislation, it's not good public policy.
No, it's not. And listen, Mike, I realize I'm preaching to the choir here, but you take a look at what is happening in the criminal justice system. I ran across a story from, I think it might have been the Springfield area earlier today. Guy is in his van, parked in his driveway, pulls out his gun for whatever reason and starts banging away, starts firing shots. This guy had lost his FOID card 2 years earlier, so he ends up charged with a litany of offenses, but prosecutors offer him a plea deal. He accepts it. And so now he's going to serve, I think it's 1.5 years worth of probation. This is what happens oftentimes. We say we need these laws on the books, right? That we got to have these common sense laws that'll save lives. And then when it comes to actually enforcing these laws, what we see it's a slap on the wrist, even for violent offenders. They're quickly returned to the streets. And the real impact is felt on those peaceable gun owners who simply want to exercise their right to keep and bear arms.
Yep, absolutely. And since they last tried to pass a semi-auto ban, I'm not going to call it what they call it, because I believe when you control the language, you can control the outcome. And but the last time they tried to pass a semi-auto ban like this, we did not have the New York Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now we've got our third big-time Supreme Court win, and this one is, again, just like Heller and just like McDonald, it's going to change the legal landscape. And I think that Bob Morgan and the other liberal legislators in the Illinois State House would just like to pretend that doesn't exist.
Yeah,
he's a lawyer. Most of the legislators are lawyers. They know about this. They've had a chance to read it if they wanted to, and yet still they're going to go through with this, and they're going to go and jump through hoops.
Well, they are. And again, as you say, with a supermajority, the numbers are there. They can lose some downstate Democrats. They will lose some downstate Democrats, I think, frankly. I don't think this is going to be a unanimous vote from every Democrat in the state legislature. But as you say, they've probably got the votes to ram this through. So now we start talking about litigation. And I know that there's going to be no shortage. We've got, over a half dozen lawsuits in New York right now. We've got, I think, 5 in Oregon. I am sure we're going to be seeing multiple lawsuits filed in Illinois if this bill becomes law. But in the meantime, Mike, I'm curious, because we've seen in Oregon, the state police, for instance, after Measure 114 passed, they said gun sales increased by like 500%. I suspect that when the news starts getting out about this pending semi-auto ban in Illinois, we're going to see the same thing happen there. Has that started to happen already? Are gun owners aware of what's going on? Are they informed? Are they engaged? And are they reacting already?
I don't know if they're rushing for the counter at the gun store just yet. The important thing here to realize is that as this legislation is written, the effective date of this legislation is when the governor signs it. So once the governor signs this, you got a gun store, you got inventory, you're stuck with it. You've got a gun store, you got magazines, you're stuck with them. Gun owners with your magazines, you are now a felon who hasn't been charged yet. Your semi-automatic rifles that they're gonna fine you for if you want to keep them. Those you have, I don't remember if it's 180 days, 380 days. Those there's a clock ticking on those when they sign the bill. But sales, manufacture, delivery, all that comes to a grinding halt as soon as the governor inks it.
All right, Mike, listen, I appreciate you joining us on the program, giving us
Can
an
we
update
go a little
with this.
more?
Yeah, please.
Can we go a little more? I got a couple
more
of things to say about this that weren't part of the what you might have had scheduled or planned, but in a large sense, this says a lot about America, about people wonder if we're going to have any kind of a civil conflict in America. Is it going to be a war? Well, there certainly is a cultural conflict, and all wars grow out of this. And lastly, I'm going to say, what can gun owners do about this bill? Well, they can call their legislators, and they can stay connected. If you're not connected now, get online, read the boards, read the forums. And there are also things that gun owners should not do about this bill. And that is, don't microanalyze this bill, at least in public. Don't go get up on a soapbox with all the technical problems that you might find in this bill if you take the time to read the legislation. Don't help the anti-gun legislators and their anti-gun lobbyists. Don't help them create a better anti-gun bill when they have to go back to the bench with this thing.
That's actually a really interesting point. Let them make their bed and lie in it, right? And if they're going to pass something that's indefensible in court, short term, not great for gun owners, but long term, better than they pass something that you're right. They've actually sort of put some craft and care into something that they believe will withstand a court challenge. Yeah. Do you have any idea, Mike? I know that the hearings for this bill have already started. Do you know when they're trying to get this to Pritzker's desk?
They are trying to get it to Pritzker's desk as soon as possible. Because shortly in January, they're going to seat a new General Assembly. And this is a bill from the current General Assembly. So they're either going to have to submit it as new legislation or pull a parliamentary trick like they did when Pritzker first became governor. When as soon as he was sworn in, they pushed the Illinois gun dealer licensing bill in front of him for him to sign. And it was a bill from the previous General Assembly. It's never been done before. And I don't know if anyone ever challenged it, but it stood. It became an Illinois Public Act, part of the Illinois compiled statutes.
But they always got some tricks up their sleeve. But
the governor has said he wants this in place by July 4th. And some people mislistened and took this to mean that he wants to sign it on July 4th. No, he wants this thing as soon as possible. There's what they call a lame duck session. Mm-hmm. It's going to start in January. And that's when they want to do this. Right now, they're having what they call subject matter hearings in committee on the bill. They're not having actually committee hearings on the bill. So there are witness slips that can be signed, but you have to look for them hard. You have to look harder for them than just looking at the bill in the on the Illinois General Assembly website. You have to go down and you have to look at specific committee hearings where they're talking about subject matter, and then it's subject matter on this bill. One of these is in an hour and 45 minutes downtown. They're having a meeting. They're having a hearing today, and they're having another one on the 15th.
All right. Well, listen, we are going to continue paying close attention to what's going on there in Illinois, and I appreciate all of your activism and you joining us on the program today, Mike. It's good to see you again, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. We'll be talking again soon. Mike Weisman joins from the great state of Illinois here on Bearing Arms, Cam & Company. I appreciate Mike joining us on the program. We are going to continue to follow what's going on there in Springfield as lawmakers rush to impose that sweeping gun ban, trying to get in, that ban as soon as they possibly can, knowing that the courts are likely to step in and perhaps put a halt to any new gun control restrictions that are added to the books there in Illinois. But again, we will be following very closely all of the legislative action. And if you are an Illinois gun owner, I would encourage you, stay involved, stay engaged. I know that it's an uphill fight. I know that the deck is stacked against you, but your lawmakers still need to be hearing from you before perhaps your attorneys contact them to let them know that, we're suing over these new restrictions. Now let's turn our attention to today's Armed Citizen story, our good deed of the day, and our recidivist report. We'll start there with a case out of Iowa, where a man out of prison for just 3 months has been arrested for allegedly selling methamphetamine, and not just a little bit of meth. Although I'm not sure that just a little bit of meth is all that okay. 139 doses worth of methamphetamine for the individual who, again, was just released from prison, 3 months ago. Robert Alexander Lovett III, 37 years old enough to know better, now charged with 1 count of possession with the intent to deliver more than 5 grams of meth. That is a Class B felony under Iowa law and carries a prison sentence of up to 25 years. Now, Lovett, as it turns out, back in 2019, was sentenced to 5 years on probation for 2 counts of forgery, 2 convictions for possession with intent to distribute meth, a conviction of child endangerment, and a theft conviction. Lovett had already violated his probation on one of the earlier forgery cases, as well as one of the meth cases, but a judge, District Judge Tom Rydell, according to the Quad City Times, quote, gave him another chance. And again, sentenced Lovett to probation instead of prison. Lovett violated his probation just 2 months later. And on July 19th, 2019, Judge Rydell sentenced Lovett to a total of 30 years in prison after the court imposed consecutive sentences on his conviction. That was, again, 2.5 years ago that Lovett was sentenced to 30 years in prison. What happened? I don't know. All we know is that he was released from prison on September 12th of this year, placed on work release, and then placed on parole status on November the 10th. Now, you could argue that maybe Lovett's probation violations should not have led to a 30-year prison sentence. But when a judge sentences him to 30 years and less than 3 years later, he's already out on the street, I can't be the only one who has questions about that. How does somebody serve a tenth, less than 1/10 of their sentence before being let loose? And should we really be surprised or shocked when somebody has received repeated slaps on the wrist? Going to send you to probation when you could go to prison. Going to send you to prison, but then I'm going to let you out really early. Should we really be surprised when it doesn't seem like that individual has learned their lesson while they were behind bars? Today's Armed Citizen story from Bedford County, PA, where police say a home intruder was shot and killed over the weekend by the homeowner. This was shortly after 3 a.m. Saturday when dispatchers from 911 were on the phone with the 72-year-old homeowner. The call disconnected, but when the call reconnected, they apparently heard shots fired. When police arrived, they found the alleged intruder, a 22-year-old named Dakota Hall, with a gunshot wound. Police say that Hall passed away of his injuries there at the scene. The 72-year-old homeowner taken to a local hospital for injuries that he suffered. from the much younger man. The investigation does continue, but at this point, this does appear to be a clear-cut case of self-defense. A 72-year-old defended himself against a 22-year-old who had no business in the 72-year-old's home. We don't know if there was any connection or relationship between the two. But again, police say that this was an act of self-defense, and the 72-year-old, hopefully, is going to fully recover from the injuries he suffered in that assault. Finally today, our good deed of the day, in the right place at the right time, willing and able to do the right thing. A New York man who just happened to be driving by the side of the road when he saw a sheriff's deputy struggling with an individual last month, and stopped his car, got out, and engaged that individual, helping to put the suspect in custody. Donald D.J. Holdridge was the gentleman in question. That's Mr. Holdridge right there. And the deputy in question, Ethan Thomas, had only been on the job a couple of years. Said he was struggling with this suspect at the time when another car pulls up and guy gets out. He said he really wasn't sure what was going on with this other individual at first. He was a little concerned that maybe the guy that pulled up was going to take the side of the man that the deputy was trying to take into custody, but that was not the case. Holdridge described what happened on November the 4th. He said they were standing, all of a sudden they went on the ground. The guys were fighting, like he was wrestling like crazy. So I got out of my vehicle. I said, "Hey, sir, my name's DJ. Do you need my help?" And he goes, "Yes, please. Yes, please." So I waited for the opportunity, he said, when he was looking away, and I tackled him from the back, and then he went face first on the ground. With Holdridge's help, Deputy Thomas able to subdue the man, make a call to dispatch to let him know that he had been in a fight. Turns out the man was wanted on a felony drug warrant out of Texas. The Army veteran and the truck driver, Holdridge, says he actually usually doesn't take that route home, but he and his fiance said, "Well, let's just go down this way," as they were headed back from a shopping trip. So again, it really was just a case of being in the right place at the right time, willing and able to do the right thing. Holdridge, presented with the sheriff's commendation for his heroism last week, said, "To me, these officers are heroes, and they don't get enough credit every day. I felt like it was my duty in the military. You never leave a fallen comrade. And at this time, nobody was thinking about the awards or accolades. I was worried about that officer's welfare because you're in the middle of nowhere." Well, in the middle of nowhere, but not without friends, or at least strangers who can come to your aid. And DJ Holdridge, in the right place at the right time, willing and able to do the right thing, to come to the aid of and defense of Deputy Ethan Thomas. We thank you, sir, for your very good deed. That is all the time we've got for you on this edition of Bearing Arms Cam & Company. I do want to thank you for being a part of the program as always. Don't forget to check out bearingarms.com, the website, throughout the day for even more of the latest Second Amendment news and information that you need to know about. We're watching what's going on in Illinois. We're also watching what's going on in Oregon, where we've got another hearing, this time for an injunction against Measure 114 taking place tomorrow. Meanwhile, the Second Circuit Court of Appeals declaring that New York's Restrictive Concealed Carry Improvement Act can be enforced for the time being. We've got all of those stories and more at Bearing Arms. If you like what you see, maybe not the news stories, but at least how we're covering them, I'd also encourage you to become a VIP member. All you have to do, go to bearingarms.com/subscribe. Use the promo code GUNRIGHTS, and you can get a significant savings on your VIP membership. As our way of saying thanks, we're going to give you exclusive news stories and analysis you won't find anywhere else, because your support does matter and it does make a difference. We'll see you tomorrow. Until then, be well, be safe, and be free.